Hey guys, what's up? Today I just wanted to make a quick video talking about kernel level anti-cheats and why they are so useful and why they don't compromise your security, as many people may lead you to believe. I'm a big fan of Modern Vintage Gamer. I watch basically all of his videos, but in today's, this kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I know for a fact he knows how to do computer programming, C++, and he would know for a fact that you can do everything that he's talking about from unprivileged Ring 3 application mode of Windows. So we're just going to listen to what he has to say here, and then we'll talk a little bit more about kernel level anti-cheats.
It has complete access to your system. It could be doing anything. It could be accessing your files. It could be intercepting your keystrokes. It could be doing absolutely anything. We put our trust in these companies and their certification to install these drivers, knowing that they'll do the right thing. But can you really know, unless you are a security researcher or you decide to disassemble the driver in IDA Pro to learn more about it, then you don't really know what's going on. And I think that's what really makes a lot of people very concerned.
Okay, so what I just want to talk about is the difference between the ability to be up here in kernel ring 0 and down here in application ring 3. So things that run inside of application ring 3, that's like calculator.exe, that's every game that you don't run as administrator, that's every application that you are running on your computer is running in application mode. Application mode is the least privileged area of this hierarchy that you can be in, and it has no access to reading outside memory of outside processes. So if we look at two test programs that I've made here, just pulled these off of GitHub Gists. These are like the most basic keylogger and the most basic screenshot tool that you could download. You can read the source code of these in the description, but I'll just quickly scroll through. So these are two examples of programs that are bad actors. These are privacy invasive programs that if I just added one more line of code to each of them, I could upload the results to a remote server in China, right? Which is everybody's concern. My privacy is at risk because if I'm running an unknown program on my computer and it has this high level of privilege, this kernel level privilege, then imagine the bad things that could happen. Inside of the Riot post, they specifically say, and rightly so, this doesn't give them any surveillance capability they didn't already have. If we cared about grandma's secret recipe for the perfect Christmas casserole, we'd find no issue in obtaining it strictly from user mode and selling it to the Food Network. The purpose of this upgrade is to monitor system state for integrity, so we can trust our data, and to make it harder for cheaters to tamper with our games. So here's an example of that. User level keylogging, user level screenshot tool, right? So here we go with my the Keylog application. I just run this. Oh look, it doesn't even spawn a window. So this could be attached to any game that you run. You don't need to have this at kernel level. This could be attached to any installer that you run. Any program that you double click on your computer and it executes, it could be keylogging you. So now I have this running in my task manager. It doesn't show up as a service. It doesn't show up as anything. It's just an invisible C++ program that is now running on my computer. So if we start typing some stuff in, let's go frankerz, 123, 123, hello YouTube, down the crop here. Okay, so it's going to take it 112 sesquivillion years to crack that password, but as we know, we're actually running a keylogger right now from user level that doesn't trip AV. This doesn't trip the antivirus. It's like the easiest keylogger in the world. So if I just close this process, here's dat.txt. This is all the keystrokes that we put in. Shift meaning, of course, that this is capital F and the rest of these are not capitals, then capital Z. This is exactly what I typed into this box. inside of a different process, right? So it's even hooking my keystrokes when I'm not focusing the window, which is pretty scary, right? So that's a concern. Any program that you run on your computer could be doing this. It doesn't need administrator access. It doesn't need kernel access. It doesn't need you to reboot your computer. All you need to do is execute the program, and it could be keylogging you. Same way, this would be like a stolen file, potentially sort of deal, or a screen recorder. This is screenshot.exe. Like I said, the source code is in the description if you want to read these. But if I just double click this, oh look, it screen capped my PC. And if I wanted to, I add one extra line to the bottom of this to upload it to some FTP server in China. And now I have a picture of your desktop in 49 kilobytes of code running from user level, right? So this, to reiterate again, this is the least privileged area of execution of a program. To reiterate again, these programs were running at the lowest level of this hierarchy. They were running at the application level. I didn't need to grant them administrator. I didn't need to grant them anything. macOS, I think, is starting to allow single applications to say, okay, well, it's trying to access your documents folder. Are you going to allow it to access your documents folder? On your phone, things are at a much better security level where every time you open an application, they're all sandbox that can't read each other's memory. And every time it wants to do something like read your data, like access your documents folder, it would have to ask you, and you would need to allow it, or else that kind of call gets denied. Whereas in Windows, if you double-click an application, if you double-click an executable program, it's going to run and it's going to do whatever it wants, as long as some kind of permission hierarchy isn't blocking it. Access to your files, access to your keystrokes, those are both completely unrestricted. You don't need any amount of additional privilege other than somebody double-clicking a program to run that. So why run anti-cheat at kernel level, right? Like, what's the point? Well, if you read the dev null anti-cheat kernel driver post here by Riot themselves, they have a very good explanation. In the last few years, cheat developers have started to leverage vulnerabilities or corrupt Windows signing verification to run their applications or portions of them at the kernel level. The problem here arises from the fact that code executing in the kernel mode can hook the very system calls we would rely on to retrieve our data, modifying the results to appear legitimate in a way we might have difficulty detecting. So, for example, if you are playing Valorant, every time that Valorant wants to read where your mouse is, it's hooking Windows API calls to say, what is the input of the mouse right now? What does the mouse sensor say its position is? If a cheat is running at kernel level or it has corrupted Windows signing verification in some way to modify the results of this mouse hook, you could essentially just give it rubbish data and say, oh, no, the mouse didn't just warp over here. No, look, the mouse sensor went like that. The mouse sensor went directly to his head. Isn't that crazy? That kind of problem arises from the cheat running at a higher level than the anti-cheat is. Because if the cheat is able to modify these system calls or hook things that the game is required to read, it has an advantage over the anti-cheat. We'll continue reading here. We've even seen specialized hardware utilizing DMA to read the process system memory, a vector that, done perfectly, could be undetectable from user mode. Now, while most players might find the idea of a corrupted Windows installation objectionable, a disturbing number of cheaters have shown themselves to be downright enthusiastic about the opportunity to jump onto some guy's botnet in exchange for the ability to orb walk. So, an abundance of cheats currently run at a higher privilege level than our anti-cheat does, again, giving them the upper hand, and the ability to access memory in a way that a user mode application would not be able to do. And again, Valorant isn't even the first game to be doing this. Easy anti-cheat games, Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege, PUBG, Dead by Daylight, they're all using easy anti-cheat or BattleEye, and they already utilize a kernel level driver to protect AAA games. So this is not a new idea presented by Riot Games or by Denuvo, this is pretty common now, as cheats have gone up to kernel level, meaning that anti-cheats must also follow them there to keep your games cheater-free. A complaint from some people is that the difference between Easy Anti-Cheat and BattlEye and what Valorant is running is that the Valorant driver runs on startup instead of when the game starts. This, I believe, is not really that impactful. You probably have a lot of things on your computer right now that are running all the time that you don't really care about. Additional things also run at startup, right? Like most gamers have Steam opening on default. They have Discord opening on default. They have a bunch of things opening on default, which all impact performance. By having it open with Windows, it has a speed advantage over cheats as well. If you have a game where the kernel level driver hasn't started until the game boots, you have an upper hand again as a cheater to have some kind of interception or disable or something like that before the game launches, right? I just think they're taking every advantage that they can take, and by doing this at the start, they also don't say, okay, we're moving it from starting when the game starts to starting with Windows, and then there's more outrage. Ultimately, kernel-level anti-cheats are going to be what every game is using in the future, because every cheat is going to be kernel-level in the future as well. To sum everything up, things in Ring 3, standard applications, that's calculator.exe, Minesweeper, League of Legends.exe, anything that you have downloaded and double-clicked and ran, that ran in application user mode. Application user mode on Windows does not keep your personal data safe. It does not keep your keystrokes safe, as we've shown with incredibly simple examples. These do not trigger anti-malware processes. These don't trigger Windows Defender. These don't trigger any kind of suspicion from the user because they'd just be running in the background. You could be being keylogged or have your data uploaded to some Chinese server without even knowing it because you run applications all the time without even thinking about it. A keylogger or a file uploader could both be inside of League of Legends.exe or Valorant.exe. They don't need to be part of the kernel driver. They could be part of anything. You don't know if a program is malicious or not unless you compiled it from source yourself. That's the only way. Like, I know that both of these are not posting my data. These are just saving it to a file on my computer. And I know that because I have the source code and I compiled them on my PC. You did not compile calculator.exe on your computer, let alone any of the Windows binaries. How do you know that Microsoft isn't uploading your keystrokes to the web, which they probably are? How do you know that League of Legends.exe isn't uploading all of your keystrokes to the web? Because of that, you can't know it for any precompiled binary that you downloaded on your PC, right? So to say that kernel level applications are the scary thing, no. Every program on your computer is a scary thing. This has to do with how Windows handles things like asking permission for files and folders, things like accessing your keyboard and mouse. There's no permission hierarchy. On Windows, if you double-click an executable and it doesn't need to ask for additional elevated privileges, like to modify system files or something, your user files, the things that you've saved, all of your documents, all of your pictures, all of your music, they're all in user space and need no elevated privilege to access. Anyway, that's about everything. I hope that this makes you more paranoid about standard executables on your Windows system and less paranoid about anti-cheat kernel drivers. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.